There's a conspiracy theory that pretty much came to fruition right after the FBI raid of Mar-A-Lago. Kind of gave a second for the right wing to process what happened, and then boom, this started being spread out on all the different social media sites and on TV, and Donald Trump himself is saying this. And it's the idea that the FBI may be planting evidence at Mar-A-Lago to frame Trump or something like that. And of course, there's no evidence to the fact that this is happening, but as we've seen with many other conspiracies, that doesn't stop them. And this reminds me a lot of the build up to the 2020 election, because it's the situation where you get to, in the lead up to something, and right now the lead up, we're waiting to see what comes out of this investigation. But before kind of the outcome of whatever it is that you're building a conspiracy around, you spread this misinformation and prep your audience to believe something so that once the actual event happens, you can't really lose. And obviously one of the examples of this is the 2020 election. Donald Trump said there's going to be fraud. He had no evidence that there was going to be. And then afterwards, there was no evidence that there was wide-scale fraud that would have made any effect on the election. And yet he used the fact that he had said it before the election as almost a little bit of proof of why it might be true. He said, see, I warned you before the election. I was saying there was going to be fraud. And that's one of the reasons why there probably was fraud or something like that. And so then once you lose, in his case, you have the perfect talking point, the perfect narrative already all prepared. So it's a very similar thing with this conspiracy about the FBI planting evidence. The build up to the full investigation kind of concluding and the information coming out about it, they're saying the FBI might be planting evidence. So then whenever information comes out, possibly incriminating whatever it is about Donald Trump, they already have this perfect narrative set up. Well, no, that wasn't true because the FBI was planting evidence. See, we warned you this was happening. But in both cases, before and after, they're not showing any evidence. They have no reason to believe this, but that doesn't stop them. So scary stuff. Here's a few examples. Donald Trump himself sending out a message on Truth Social saying, the FBI and others from the federal government would not let anyone, including my lawyers, be anywhere near the areas that were rummaged and otherwise looked at during the raid on Mar-A-Lago. Everyone was asked to leave the premises. They wanted to be left alone without any witnesses to see what they were doing, taking, or hopefully not planting. So there's him kind of spinning out this idea. Why did they strongly insist on having nobody watching them? Everybody out? Obama and Clinton were never raided despite big disputes on it. Obviously, I have no clue what specifically he's alluding to in regard to Obama and Clinton. But I mean, Clinton, I've heard his talking points on that. But Obama, what would they have raided Obama for? I guess they could have raided Clinton for her emails, but I honestly don't know even what the theory would be in Obama's case. But you can see there, he's saying, hopefully they're not planting things. And it's funny, it's one of the things I've pointed out a lot in the aftermath of this FBI raid, is this thing that you see a lot of people who are very much against the raid doing, which is to say something in an outraged tone or in a ooh type message like he just did there without explaining why it's necessarily bad. And so even there he says they asked us to get off the premises. They asked us not to be all up in their business. How dare they? But then he doesn't explain, is that against protocol? Is that something the FBI shouldn't do? Because in my mind it makes sense that they would want some privacy while they're doing a raid. They don't want to be obstructed while they're going through that process, and of course they do have a warrant to do so. So please explain if you're going to say something as horrible, terrible, and proof of possible wrongdoing by the FBI. Show proof, or explain, I should say, that it's bad in some way. Give your reasoning for that. But then here is Jesse Waters also spreading this around.
It could have easily negotiated the return of documents like that without guns and warrants. What the FBI is probably doing is planting evidence, which is what they did during the Russia hoax. We also have a hunch they doctored evidence to get the warrant.
That's beautiful right there. That's a beautiful example where he's even saying, I have no clue what I'm talking about, because he ends it with, we even have a hunch that they doctored whatever information they provided that got them the warrant. Oh, you have a hunch? That's it? A hunch? And you're putting that information out to millions of people over Fox News based on a hunch? Really? And of course, at the beginning, him saying that they are probably planting evidence. That's why. Of course, not providing any information, evidence, or details about why he believes that, just asserting it. And then here is Senator Rand Paul, excuse me, saying a similar thing.
So much the government that we've gotten to the point where, for example, do I know that the boxes of material they took from Mar-a-Lago, that they won't put things in those boxes to entrap him? How do we know? Their lawyers weren't allowed to see the boxes go. They weren't categorized.
That's going to be a problem.
Thousands of documents were taken. Yeah, how do we know that they're going to be honest with us about what's actually in the boxes?
So even a senator, we got the former president, a senator, and major media figures all spreading this. And then this isn't specifically the planting, but it's going even further, saying they may be bugging his bedroom. What are we doing? Here's Jesse Waters again.
What a bunch of perverts rummaging around the First Lady's wardrobe. Again, Trump better sweep for bugs in the bedroom. It's like they have this really sick obsession with what goes on in his bedroom. Are they still looking for the P-tape? And what's with the...
So just setting aside the P-tape thing, because I honestly don't want that to have to be sitting in my brain for any longer than it just did there. It's so interesting how you can just make up theories out of thin air and then pretend it's reasonable just by making descriptions of what the FBI did in an outraged tone. They went through his bedroom. Okay, explain why that's bad. It sounds like they had a warrant to go through his entire residence. So why would they go through his office looking for specific documents or something and then not look in his bedroom? What if they missed documents? If they have a warrant to search a particular area, then of course they're going to search it. And then pretending like it's a perverted thing of them wanting to go through his bedroom is completely silly. So super dangerous stuff. And as I said, they are prepping their audience to already believe that there's some wrongdoing going on, so that whatever comes out of the investigation on the FBI's part will be seen as completely fraudulent. It's probably all made up and fabricated. And the way that we know that is because all of the people we trusted told us this before any of the information came out, without any evidence of their own to the claims they were making. So as I say a lot when covering American politics, scary, scary stuff.